A baby was born on a rainy Sunday afternoon. The rain wouldn't stop. It beat against the thatched roof like an urgent drum. One of those days when the heavens seemed to weep, as if they already knew the burdens a soul was about to bear. Inside, Martha cradled her newborn son, her heart both full and strangely heavy. She clutched him to her chest, whispering prayers through tears of exhaustion and joy. "Your name?" "Kevin," she whispered, her voice cracked from hours of labor. "You are my arrow. I will prepare you for the future, guiding you with wisdom, love, God's word, and purpose, so you can be launched into the world to fulfill your potential. I pray you pierce the world with goodness." "Lord, children are like arrows in the hand of a warrior," she breathed. "Let this arrow fly true." "Kevin, I pray you pierce the world with goodness." But even as she spoke, the old midwife watched the baby's restless eyes with unease. She muttered under her breath, almost to herself, "Or perhaps he'll pierce his mother's own heart." Then she smiled faintly and placed a hand over her chest. "So shall it be," she said. From infancy, Kevin was different, always restless. Where other babies cooed and snuggled, he writhed and wailed, as if resisting the very hands meant to comfort him. He even fought sleep, as though afraid of dreams. Martha, with roughened hands from years of washing other people's clothes, tried everything: lullabies, herbs. Meanwhile, Kevin's father, Richard, was little more than a ghost, always chasing contracts in far-off towns, leaving Martha to raise this quivering storm alone. Day after day, Martha worked herself to the bone, washing laundry and running errands for wealthy ladies in the neighborhood. Each evening, she returned home to find Kevin tormenting lizards or scrawling dark symbols in the dirt. "Kevin, come inside. It's getting late," she would plead. His small eyes, already hard, would narrow. "Leave me alone, mother." Sometimes she found him whispering to himself, and she wondered, heart sinking, why he behaved so strangely. Martha hardly spent quality time with her son. Instead of nurturing their bond, she often raised her voice, leaving Kevin more fearful than loved. Months later, he began stealing money from her bag. When she confronted him, he denied it outright. But Martha knew it was only the two of them in the house. She cautioned him gently. "Kevin, this is wrong. Please don't do it again." Kevin only nodded, reluctant and sullen. Richard came home once every few months, carrying the scent of beer and faraway towns. Kevin never ran to greet him. One evening, Martha tried to bridge the distance. "Talk to your son. He needs you." Richard shrugged. "Boys find their way, no matter what. He'll change for the better." Kevin watched from the doorway, his face like stone. Later that night, he knocked over a lantern, nearly burning the house down. By the time Kevin was 8, the village was already whispering. "That boy has a shadow on his back," one old woman told Martha. Kevin's eyes were sharp, his words sharper. He stole meat from neighbors' pots and glared unflinchingly when caught, a smirk curling his lips. "Please," she then advised Martha, "create time for Kevin. Such a child needs care, attention, love, and above all, prayers." Late into the night, Martha would kneel by Kevin's bed and whisper, "Father, he is my arrow. Please aim him rightly." But Kevin's stubbornness only worsened. Martha's prayers seemed unheard by God. Overcome with frustration, she often shouted at him, her heart breaking a little more each day. The teenage years brought even more storms. Kevin's behavior worsened. He began stealing more frequently, without remorse. One morning during physical exercise at school, while Mrs. Zara was instructing students on the field, Kevin quietly excused himself and slipped back into the empty classroom. There, he rummaged through a teacher's bag and took a few coins. Unfortunately for him, he was caught red-handed and punished. Just a few days later, he resumed bullying his classmates, especially a timid boy named William. Kevin would snatch their food, beat them up, and eat without a shred of guilt, even though Martha, aware of her son's nature, packed him a generous lunch every day. Then, one afternoon after school, Kevin crossed yet another line. He crept into a neighbor's yard and stole a goat. This time, he was caught by the villagers and publicly disgraced. Yet, Kevin showed no shame. He held his head high, eyes defiant, as though disgrace was beneath him. Each time Martha heard of her son's behavior, her heart broke a little more. She would weep bitterly in private, tears soaking her pillow. "Why, Kevin? Why are you doing this?" she cried one evening. Kevin shrugged and smirked. "Because I can." Her prayers grew more desperate. Many nights, she lay awake with her hand pressed to her chest, feeling as though a knife was lodged there. One evening, Kevin returned home bloodied and bruised, with the echo of laughter from street boys trailing behind him. They hailed him as their lion. Earlier that evening, he had fought two much older boys, massive, rough teens known in the neighborhood, and had bitten them fiercely. His peers, impressed by his wild courage, sang his praises like he was a champion. Martha sat him down and scrubbed his wounds with trembling hands, tears falling freely down her cheeks. "Kevin, is this how you repay me?" she said. "After everything I've done, my efforts to care for you, to provide for you, my sleepless nights, my constant prayers, is this what you've become? Is this the life you choose?" Kevin pulled away from her touch, face cold and angry. "I didn't ask you to pray for me or provide for me, Mother," he snapped. "Maybe if Father had been around, I wouldn't be like this." His words sliced deeper than any blade. Martha clutched her chest as though physically struck. She stood there in silence, watching her son storm off to his room. The sound of the door slamming behind him felt like the final nail sealing their bond in a coffin. Kevin, now 20, brought home a friend named Solomon, a quiet boy with gentle eyes. They laughed and planned together. Martha hoped, perhaps, that this new friendship might change Kevin. She found a flicker of hope in Solomon's shy laughter and calm presence. But Kevin had other plans. 3 weeks later, news spread that Solomon's family had lost their life savings. That very evening, Kevin had visited their house. He knew no one was home, and he stole the money. It didn't take long for whispers to grow into accusations. All fingers pointed to Kevin. "Mother, they're lying." Kevin insisted, though guilt danced in his eyes. Martha's heart splintered once again. She could barely talk. "Kevin, even if the world lies, God sees the truth. And I fear more for your soul than your shame." Kevin turned away, jaw clenched, as if the mention of grace stung him like fire. One night, Martha was awoke to shouting. People were calling Kevin's name. She ran into the darkness with all the strength her frail body could muster. She found Kevin embroiled in a fierce melee, his eyes blazing with determination as he fought off the gang of vicious attackers. "Kevin!" she screamed, her voice cracking like old wood. "Stop this. Kevin, please." Kevin paused. His wild eyes found hers. For a fleeting moment, something soft flickered in them. "Go home, Mother. This is who I am," he shouted. His voice was final. As police sirens approached, alerted by someone in the area, Martha collapsed to her knees, sobbing into the dirt. Kevin was arrested that night. Martha visited him every week, despite the whispers and stares of judgmental neighbors. Her shawl was always pulled tight, her face weary, her steps slow. In the sterile visiting room, she pressed her hand against the glass that separated them. "Kevin, son, repentance isn't too late. Even now, God is waiting." Kevin leaned back in his seat, arms folded. His smirk was faint, almost weary. God? He never helped me. Where was he when I needed a father? Tears slid silently down Martha's cheeks. "He was right here, loving you through me," she whispered. Kevin looked away, the invisible wall between them growing taller, colder. 6 months passed in a haze of fragile hopes. Kevin was released on parole, older, harder, more distant. Martha threw a small welcome meal. She hoped it would rekindle their bond. "Please sit and eat," she urged. Kevin stood beside her, barely looking at the food. His eyes shifted around the room, restless and angry for no apparent reason. That night, money from Martha's purse went missing. She confronted him at the doorstep, hands trembling. "Kevin, please. I have nothing else to give." Kevin stared at her. Something close to shame flickered across his face, but only for a moment. Then he stepped into the night without a word, disappearing into the shadows. Martha stood in the doorway, clutching the frame as if it were the only thing holding her together. Later that night, Martha knelt on the floor to pray. She prayed hard, but her prayers were full of complaints and questions. She whispered to herself, maybe praying harder is not enough. Then, months later, tragedy happened. One night, Kevin got into a big fight with his mother. Martha was talking to him with love, begging him to change his bad ways. But Kevin didn't listen. He felt like she was attacking him with her words. The shouting grew louder. In anger, Kevin stormed out of the house. He slammed the door and walked into the dark night. Outside on the street, he met some local boys, rough boys he had fought with before. These boys didn't like Kevin, and that night, the hatred grew stronger. They started arguing. Soon, the argument turned into a fight. But something was different this time. Kevin didn't want to fight. Maybe he was too tired after the argument with his mother. Maybe he was just tired of fighting all the time. He didn't fight back. One of the boys pushed him hard. Kevin lost his balance. He fell, and his head hit a stone on the ground. The sound was loud and final. The boys froze. Fear covered their faces. They realized something terrible had happened. Without saying a word, they ran away, leaving Kevin there alone. The street was empty. The night was quiet. No one saw him fall. No one was there to help. Kevin lay still on the ground, and the silence that followed was loud enough to break a mother's heart. Kevin's mother lay on the couch in the living room, waiting for him to return, and she slept off. The next morning, Martha woke up suddenly. The house was too quiet. Kevin had not come back home. Her heart felt heavy. He has never slept outside. He usually comes back home no matter how late it takes. She waited a little, walking around the room, telling herself, he's probably sleeping at a friend's house just to annoy me. But deep inside, something didn't feel right. By 7 a.m., she couldn't wait any longer. Fear gripped her chest. She rushed outside, barefoot. She asked every neighbor she saw, "Have you seen my son? Did Kevin pass here?" Most shook their heads. Then a young boy, looking scared, finally spoke. "Ma, I saw Kevin last night. He was fighting near the corner, beside the broken gutter." Before he finished talking, Martha was already running. Her wrapper came loose. Her head tie almost fell off. She didn't care. She ran down the dusty road like a woman chased by fire. Some neighbors followed, sensing something bad had happened. Then she saw him. Kevin was lying on the ground, curled up slightly on one side. There was dry blood in his hair. His lips had lost their color. His body was cold. Martha stopped. For one long second, she couldn't move. "No," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Kevin." She dropped to her knees and lifted his head gently. "Wake up, Kevin, my son. Wake up," she cried, louder and louder. Her voice echoed down the street. People gathered quickly. Faces were full of shock, sorrow, and silence. "Go get a cab," someone shouted. "Go and get the nurse," another person ran off. But Kevin didn't move. His eyes stayed shut. His chest didn't rise. He was gone. Martha held him close and rocked his lifeless body. She cried out, "I beg you to change. I warned you, Kevin. I prayed and prayed for you." Her loud cries broke the morning silence. And as the sun slowly rose, shining down on the street where Kevin took his last breath, a deep sorrow fell over the whole neighborhood. No one had words. Only silence. Only grief. Only pain. The news of Kevin's death spread fast across the community, like dry grass catching fire. The burial was held 2 days later. The whole community came out, most dressed in black. The choir sang slow hymns. Young boys from the neighborhood who had once fought with Kevin stood quietly, guilt written across their faces. Richard finally came on the day of his son's burial, and he looked older and tired. His eyes were red from crying. He stood beside Martha, his hands in his pockets, unable to look at her face. "I failed him," he said softly. Martha closed her eyes. Her heart was heavy with pain and love. "You didn't just fail him," she said. "You failed us." Then, she leaned her head on his shoulder. They stood like that for a long time, two broken people, trying to find comfort in each other. Pastor Emmanuel from their local church spoke of grace and the fragility of life. "Kevin made mistakes," he said, "but so have we all. Let his life be a lesson and his death a wake-up call. While there is life, there is hope. Let us not wait until it's too late. At the graveside, Martha fell to her knees as they lowered the coffin. My son, come back to me, she wailed, clawing at the sand. It took 3 people to pull her away, while people slowly poured sand over Kevin's coffin. That coffin held all of Martha's hopes, now buried. Pastor Emmanuel walked up to her. Martha, he said softly, I know this pain is deep, but Kevin's story is not over. Even in death, God can use this sorrow to bring healing and change the lives of other youths for the better. Don't let grief drown you. Don't let the devil take your hope. When everyone had gone, Martha and Richard were still standing there. The silence was heavy. They were not ready to go back home, a home that no longer had Kevin in it. Martha cried, What did I go wrong? I talked to him. I prayed for him. I begged him. He was my only child, and now he's gone. Her voice broke. Was it my fault? Did I fail him too? Then she said to herself, Children are like arrows in the hands of their parents, just like arrows in the hands of a warrior. But her own arrow had turned back and pierced her heart. Still, through her pain, she whispered, But I still trust you, Lord. Her tears dropped onto the earth. She added, Maybe my prayers weren't for this world. Maybe they will follow him into the next. A gentle breeze passed by. The leaves above her began to whisper, as if heaven was speaking peace to her. It wasn't the ending she had prayed for, but somehow a small, quiet hope remained. Maybe, just maybe, heaven was holding her son in ways she could not. That evening, after the burial, a boy named Zella, about Kevin's age, walked quietly up to the house where Martha and Richard sat in silence. His steps were hesitant, his face pale with guilt. Then, without a word, he knelt before them. I was one of them, he said softly, barely meeting their eyes. The night Kevin died, I was there. I didn't push him, but I didn't stop it either. I'm so sorry. Martha stared at him, her eyes swollen from endless tears. Her heart throbbed with grief and confusion. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her lips quivered. Instead, with trembling hands, she reached out and gently placed her palm on his shoulder. Then she turned away, a fresh wave of tears falling down her cheeks. Her heart was shattered, but somewhere deep within the cracks, a seed of forgiveness had begun to grow. From that day on, Zella became a changed person. He took his education seriously, stayed away from bad company, and worked hard, doing menial jobs to support his struggling family. He often came around the house to help Martha and Richard, fixing broken things, running errands, sweeping the compound, and checking if they were okay. At times, he even brought them small gifts and paid some of their bills quietly, without fanfare. Over time, he became like the son they never had again, present, helpful, respectful. His own parent watched in awe at the transformation in the life of Zella. The once reckless boy now walked with purpose. His mother was proud and grateful for the second chance life had given him. Weeks passed. Martha went back to her simple life. Many people thought she'd become bitter or broken, but something changed in her. Her heart grew softer, and a gentle light returned to her eyes. And God had given her Zella, who usually checked on her and helped them run errands and give them lots of gifts. Children in the village, those who used to fear Kevin, began to come around her house. She gave them oranges. She told them stories. She laughed with them. Each time she touched a child's head, she prayed silently. Lord, please don't let them end up like Kevin. Protect their parents from the pain I carry. Cancel every evil word spoken over them. One sunny afternoon, Richard sat with her on the small porch. I was always chasing the world, he said. I thought money and power would make me a man. But what mattered most was here, with you and Kevin. And I wasn't there. Martha looked into his eyes and said gently, It's not too late. Not too late to love those who are still here. They watched the sun go down together. Their pain was still there, but so was a quiet promise. To be better, to love deeper, even with the silence in Kevin's empty room. Years went by. Martha became slower. Her steps were careful. Her smile, though gentle, showed her age. At night, she sometimes dreamed of Kevin, not as a troubled young man, but as a small boy running into her arms. She would wake up with tears, but also with peace. Around her, Young mothers rocked their babies, tiny arrows waiting to be shaped and sent out into the world. Martha prayed silently. Let them fly straight, O Lord. Let them stay far from the darkness, Kevin knew. Martha spent the rest of her life in quiet reflection, constantly praying and blessing children around her, even those she had never met. Her prayers were always the same, whispered with tears and deep longing. Lord, give their parents the wisdom, the right prayers to speak over their children, she would say. She had learned, through deep pain, that a child could either be an arrow in the hands of a parent, or an arrow that pierces a parent's heart. So she prayed not just for children to grow well, but for parents to be spiritually armed, vigilant, and discerning. She would often sit outside her house, watching the neighborhood kids run and laugh, her hands lifted slightly as she blessed them in silence. In every prayer, in every tear, Martha poured out her grief as a sacrifice, so that no other mother would feel the pain she carried in her heart. Thanks for watching. Did this story touch your soul? Arrow in My Heart, a powerful, heart-wrenching narrative that reminds us all of the cost of love, the patience of motherhood, and the grace that never lets go, even after death. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to watch more heart-touching stories like this. Stay blessed.